guys want to look at it.
It didn't show on the packet where.
No, and that's intentional.
Okay.
That's for us to discuss what would make sense if we want to, this will go to the planning commission as well, since it's a new amenity in a park. I better keep one locked up, yeah. So most of the traffic will come in near Summit Street. This is, kind of the main intersection, the front door of the park right here. We've got, obviously it goes clear around back here. We've got picnic tables spread on both sides. And I'm not sure what they have in mind for a location of a shelter house. I just kind of want us to be aware of it and approve a recommendation, if we so choose, to add that or to recommend the addition of a shelter house in Helvey Park, provided with support from the Kiwanis Club.
Cool. I like the east side. I think which is this one that's over here. I feel like anything that's back this far is too far to walk around.
That's a pretty isolated spot in the park. There's really no good way to get there because there's a fence at the end of this.
This right here. I've driven past this before. Like that's pretty easy access.
It's pretty wider than it looks too.
Yeah, it is. It's pretty big.
Yeah.
I feel like I think it's like a little hill too, isn't it? It's like you drive up, you can't quite see the water from when you pull up right there.
So maybe we just want to tell them to put it on the east side of the.
Yeah, I mean, I think as long as they stick to the east side, then we're good on anything. Does anyone else want to look at that?
So on the east side, that would be over by the water plant, right?
No, the east side.
Oh, sorry, you're right. It's the west side.
Is it the west? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yes, you're right.
I even gave you the one. I even gave you the one with the
I
north
know,
arrow. I'm looking for the north arrow online. I'm like, I don't see it
You're
there.
right.
But yeah, so
The
the west
original
side.
over there. Yeah, west side. So again, and that's. Go
Are they
ahead.
talking about a trail up to that?
No, they're just talking about a pad with piers and a shelter. And again, with support from the city, I'm sure for some of that material, and potentially the community. This started out with another organization at Wildflower Park, and the word kind of spread. So the mayor's done a good job of garnering support from other organizations. And so I think really if that's something we're interested in recommending, then we go ahead and make a motion and recommend that, and then we can forward that on if the club can, if it makes it through the Kiwanis Club.
As far as like maintenance in the parks, I know that like you guys get back there and you mow all of that, so you guys are back there pretty often.
Mow,
But
trash.
I just didn't know without a trail, like anything back here behind these houses, I feel like is going to be more difficult to keep an eye on than something that's like right there by the entrance. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I feel like that's just easier to like drive by and be like, yep, that's not trashed.
Well,
We're still good today.
I don't know how many people want to make that trek all the way down through the grass.
Yeah.
That's true.
It's not terrible.
It's not that far, but it's still, I don't know. I just feel like for you guys to just be able to be like, oh, yep, that's still standing.
Well,
We're good.
if people are going to rent it out for whatever, you're not going to want to haul everything you have
Right.
from there.
Yeah.
all the way
And the
down.
size of the shelter is 12 by 14, so it's quite a bit smaller than our other ones.
Yeah.
Unless they want to put a couple there side by side, you could make something. So that's something to kind of keep in perspective.
Yeah, the big thing you're saying like right here is also the people usually park right here on this
Yeah.
street.
Yeah.
And right up here, there's a gate you can kind of almost go into here.
Oh,
so,
really?
Double two.
yeah, it's a
gates.
double
It's-
gate right here.
Yeah.
So is there like
Regularly
a
locked.
place where it's not a parking lot, but
No,
like
there's
you
no,
could,
but yeah, when I did the yoga in the park, everyone parked literally right here and then
Okay.
up along here. So getting it right here would be pretty short and it's
Yeah.
a little,
yeah, I feel like that's a good spot, that little front
Just kind of
section.
up on a hill there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, I think, if we,
I think as long
broad
as it's on that
parameters,
west side, we're fine, but that'd be a good
rather than,
spot.
we want it to be right here.
Yeah.
So many feet off this tree.
Yeah.
And again, they need to, the mayor's been talking with individuals in the Kiwanis Club, it would need to go through their approval process, but at least that would take care of this hurdle, so we could move it forward.
So do they need to come get their, everything in order there before we would go to planning and zoning, or?
That's my understanding, yeah.
Okay.
And I think their meeting is the first week of May is their next meeting where this will be discussed.
A recommendation from us, is that need to come this evening before that happens, or is that after they get their stuff approved?
I would expect it this evening.
Okay.
But
I just
I'm
didn't know
just-
which needed
Then we
to
can
come
at least
first.
have that general area in mind.
Right.
Yeah.
Then they come to their decision, they make the decision, well, cool, that's where they've said we'd like to put it this area.
Right.
Kind of.
Okay.
Because then it'll go through the plan, yeah.
Yeah,
I think that would help planning and zoning
Right.
if you already had an idea of the area
Sure.
that you wanted to.
And that gives us something to tell the
Everybody
Kiwanis Club that, look, Park would like the idea
Yeah.
of putting something on the west side.
right.
And you guys said it's a lot bigger than.
Yeah.
It is, it
How
is a lot
wide
bigger
would
than
that
it
be
is.
right there where we're talking? Maybe 40 feet, 30
The
feet?
problem with these maps is everything's flat.
So, I mean, you can,
And
so
so
if it
it's-
helps, like, I mean, those are houses.
Yeah,
So, I
so we
mean,
gotta
like,
get
that's-
about 30, 40 feet at least.
Yeah.
They're good size.
That one
Yeah.
whole corner, I think, is probably 50 or 75 yards long.
Yeah, they're good
Pretty big.
size.
Yeah. Looks like.
But-
And then we've got a few picnic table pads. You can barely see them on there. They're 10 by 10. I think that's what these two are.
Is that what
Oh, those
little
little,
Yep.
you
bullets
can
are?
kind
Yep.
of see those little.
See them right there, but
Oh, yeah.
those are 10 by 10.
Exactly, it's not much bigger than that.
It'd be a
Yeah.
nice place to have your shelter house
Perfect.
close to
Yeah.
your pad.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I think they'd use it for their fishing derby, which would be great as well.
Yeah,
Are
that'd
they
be
talking
great.
about, with the shelter, did they put one of those little barbecue grill things there too?
I'm not sure if that's part of the plan or
I don't
not.
know if it's part of it.
It's pretty preliminary at this point.
Rotary? Yes. Okay, give us just a minute.
So would we be
Oh,
moving
you can say
to approve further conversation, basically? Is that the motion we made, further conversation?
Right.
Zoning. Well, I
Yeah.
move that we allow further conversation between Kiwanis zoning and for the Kiwanis possibility of a shelter house out at Healthy Park.
Can we stipulate to the west side?
If we can.
Okay, and stipulating to the west.
Okay.
We'll clean it up nice and neat.
Say that out loud.
So like even like the northwest corner,
Yeah,
that,
I like, yeah.
Good?
Yeah.
Second?
A second.
all right, all four, say aye.
aye.
All opposed, say no. And it passes.
Excellent.
All right, so Smith's Fork Ball Field 1 restoration.
Ball field one.
Brett, I assume that's you.
I'll take this one as well.
It's Brett, all
Yeah.
Brett, nothing Brett tonight.
This field, we've had glass discovered on an automotive style glass since we moved the infield from another field to add soccer area in the park. So the solution here is to dig out 3 inches of infield and bring in a clean infield material. I've priced out 3 different options. The first option is the red shale, like you see at Waterwell or the high school. Obviously, that's an expensive option. The middle option is ball field fines, like you'd see at Fountain Bluff, and I believe also at Waterwell.
You wanna see
It's
the
kind of the
prices on
light.
there?
It's okay, I'm gonna pull it up on my
Oh,
phone. I have it in the thing, I just gotta pull it up.
okay, so yeah, the first option was $17,200 for the red shale. The second option, $9,200. The third option would be basically using 4 tons of the infill material we have on hand in the 2,000-pound super sacks with clean fill brought in. That comes in right at $3,400. So that would get us, and then we'd just do the work in-house. Probably get it laser graded when we were done to keep it drained.
Yeah. The second option, well, the third option, the least expensive option, it's gonna have more material brought in next year because it's gonna settle quite a bit. I think the second option is not gonna settle quite as much. I mean, we look to not have to spend more money next year
Right,
to make that surface playable again.
yeah.
That'd be my only concern. And of course, the other stuff, once it packs in there, it's packed in there.
It's done, yeah.
But you're talking about twice, a little
A
over
lot-
twice
a
the
lot.
expense.
Yeah,
And then we run into budget issues.
Well, that, and I don't know that.
for
it's not
one
like-
ball
It's not like
field,
we have
that's a lot.
tournaments and stuff out there.
Right. And we're not using it all for our rec programs
Right.
at this point. At the same time, we need to
Yeah.
do something.
I would think the second option is probably the best option, just because of having to spend more money the next season, to come back and fill.
Now, did you say the red shale won't compress?
No, it does, but once it's there, it's there. It doesn't,
Go with the water, like.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it doesn't,
It's rock.
yeah, I'm trying to think of the word. It compacts, but it compacts into itself. where the regular dirt, as it compacts and then kind of goes away. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, my only question being, like, is 3 inches not overkill? I mean, who can dig their cleat in 3 inches?
The problem is
To
that
get
the
all
material
glass.
works up as you work that infield.
Okay.
And that's why it's,
Yeah, we should be dragging.
tonnage wise, I
You're
figured the same
pulling
tons
something
Right.
on all these, on all this. So I'm not talking about, I'm hoping I'm not buying a lot of air. I'm not talking about
Right.
pulverized fill or topsoil or
Right.
anything like that. So that may mitigate some of
Yeah.
the settling.
If the settling is a concern for the third one, even if we had to do it, what, twice? Like, we fill it and then we go back and have to refill it again the next year, it's still
And I don't know
less
that-
money than the second option, is that not?
Right. I don't know that
Is
we'd
it
have
just a
to,
better fill substance?
I don't know that we'd have to spend that much again.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I'm just
And
saying,
that's
like,
gonna be
that's
a lot
worst
easier
case
to
scenarios, we'd
swallow.
have to do it twice.
Yeah.
But to me, like, that's still less money to have to spend on
And we
it
can-
if we're not using it for
We
rec
can,
stuff right
yeah,
now.
we can work it in, try and
Yeah.
pack it down. We've got access to the street department equipment.
Yeah.
And if we're laser grading it when we're done, hopefully it'll drain.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why we ended up moving that one infield to the next, was always trying to improve the grade there. We just didn't know they used to run demolition derbies on that field.
Oh,
Would have been nice to know that.
that would have been
So,
nice.
like if the second or the third one of the options that were chosen, was that kind of accounted for, not necessarily this specific maintenance project in this current year budget?
We could
With your
probably
place?
swing option number 3 this year, in the current fiscal year 19.
So would you possibly look at doing that for this year, and knowing maybe you'd have to come back next year and maybe
I think,
look
again,
up
if
to
there's
option
no,
2, or for next year?
that would be something we could discuss in our budget priorities.
I
You
think
know,
That way we give you a longer,
Yeah, who is using the field right now if it's not the Parks and Rec department? Is it just a ball field to
people that
use,
walk on
practice,
it.
that kind of thing?
Nobody can use it because
So-
it's covered in dead grass right now.
Right.
Okay. I mean, my feeling on that is just, we need to get the glass situation taken care of. I'd like to see progress made on something if it needs done. I like the cheaper option, and if we had to, like I said, if we had to, worst case scenario, do it all over again next year, but then it was done, it's still less money than the second option, and it's
That's
taken
true.
care of.
Yeah.
So, unless it's just that much better of an infield fill material to do that second option, I mean, it's dirt.
Well,
I played on
none of the
dirt.
fields now are that second material anyway.
No, that's true.
So,
Okay.
Yeah, it would
I
basically,
agree with that, because doing the third option right now would get it done
Now.
this season.
They could use it this season.
by fall, let's say by fall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would say
That'd be our
that's the way to
goal.
go.
We got a lot of projects going on,
Well,
but
I
I
would-
mean,
I would say
that's
that's
why
the way to go.
we'd get going on it.
Right.
is
Yeah.
what, you know what I mean? So that's the attraction of that. And like I said, I wouldn't anticipate it shrinking half again.
Oh, no,
Maybe
yeah.
some.
Sure, but even
Maybe
still,
so.
you could always bring some of that other material in
And,
later.
right, and we've held off. I think
Right.
we've got 5 tons set
Yeah.
aside, and we've got more on order of that calcite clay. So we can make up some of that with that as well, that we've already
I think that's
budgeted.
probably, yeah, that might be the smartest idea then.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
If we get 6 or 7 tons out,
Yeah,
that might work.
is 3 inches enough?
I hope so.
Right,
That's our biggest, I mean, the people that I've talked to, that's,
yeah, that's the recommendation,
yeah, if we have to till a ball field,
yeah.
we set the tiller at 2 inches.
Oh,
Does that make sense?
Sure.
So I'm
Yeah.
thinking that gives us an inch of insurance.
right,
That's the idea,
yeah.
so.
Okay.
Why don't you guys make a motion on that?
Let's say someone has to make a motion. on that.
Now, do we make a motion for the specific price
Just
range?
option, just option 3 is good.
Yeah.
I move, we,
Or, yeah, I don't know how detailed.
well, I move
that
that
would be
we,
on that option.
move for option 3, clean fill with 4 tons of infield
That's good.
conditioner added, for the Smithville Field 1 restoration.
I'll second.
Who seconded that? Okay.
All right,
Thank
all
you.
four say aye,
Aye.
and all opposed say no. And
Good
it
discussion.
passes.
Question, Judy?
Oh, we didn't do discussion, I'm sorry, I keep skipping over discussion.
Well, I'm sitting there.
Are we gonna set the bases in both fields?
On where?
At Smithville?
like permanent posts.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, there are bases in it now
There's no
still.
bases on 2, but there are bases on 1.
There's no bases on 2?
Uh,
Someone's stealing?
I don't know. I went out there with a metal detector to try and
We
find
were,
one.
we'll
Deals
check
I
it
couldn't
out,
find.
we'll check it out.
Yeah. But yeah, the bases are on 1, but it's the field that's covered in grass.
We've got some extra
Yeah.
sets laying around, we can get some.
That'd have been recent.
And then 1's, but it'll be taken care of when it's done, but 1's home plate is day 2 inches down.
We switched out, we went to the wood core instead of the
Yeah.
waffle. So,
That's all.
we'll let you know in a few years how that works
Yeah.
out, when that wood rots away, we got the same
Right.
thing, but we're trying something different anyway.
All
Okay.
right, so, did you have something?
No, I just didn't know maybe you wanted, this might take a little bit longer.
Yeah, do we have to amend this before, if we let Rotary go ahead and, or do we need to do that during new business?
I would say, I suppose, new business.
Yeah.
Okay,
And I could make a motion to move agenda item 7.
that's what I'm asking, so that we can go ahead and let her, and then we can get our discussion in. Okay,
Yeah,
Okay,
we'll
go
move
ahead.
7 up, and then we'll come back to budget and CIP priorities, so I make that motion.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Cool.
Okay.
You're on.
Just have a seat over here, if it's okay with you.
Nope, that's perfect. I can get you on a microphone that way.
For the record, I'm Linda Buckmiller. I'm part of the Smithville Rotary Club here in town. And I don't know how much you know about everything that's going on or not, but Rotary is very lucky this year. Once in a lifetime opportunity has become available to all of us. Someone has passed and left their huge farm to Rotary, and so all the Rotaries can now request a grant for money, and but it has to fall into certain guidelines and rules, and so our grant is due the 30th of April, so we're on kind of a short time crunch. And we've changed our mind about what we want to do, and I think we finally have settled on it. We've become aware that there is there is limited ADA accessible play options at the school. Recently, a young man in a wheelchair has made a plea for the school to have, his aide has to carry him around because of the substance, his wheelchair won't go around. So we got to thinking about that and we said, well, that's the case in several locations, not just the school. We have decided on some play equipment for the school that we're going to try and put a grant in to get for the schools, but we wanted to include the city. We don't want to leave them out because we think that's important to have it for the community here too. So, just so you know, so this, and you can pass this around, is a piece of play equipment that they can put a wheelchair up to. It's sand and water. These are the ones we're going to purchase 5 of these for the schools and put 1 or 2 at each one of the schools. But for the city, we wanted to get a larger one. And again, you can pass that around. And the big drawback here is my machine is it needs a solid surface for wheelchairs to roll. So it has to be asphalt. It can't be gravel. It can't be some of the rubber stuff or whatever. There's also another piece of equipment that is a sensory one that we kind of like. It's most expensive, but we thought if we have enough funds. So what it comes down to is we're getting 5 of the smaller ones for the school. For the city, we wanted to get one of the large ones and possibly the musical board that you're getting passed around now. And it comes down to the asphalt. Asphalt's not cheap, I just found out today. And so, and we'd like to put these down here at Heritage Park. You guys are putting on a whole new park up there. And so we thought if there was room, we thought that would be a good location for it. So we have a couple of options. We can get one piece of equipment and do the asphalt ourselves if there's room. Or we can get two pieces of equipment and you guys can do the asphalt. Question?
How much area space of asphalt?
Well, it has to go around each one of these pieces of equipment. We figured about 600 square feet, which comes up to about $2,400. That's rough, give or take. That's a quick, we don't have a contract for that, but we're
We
thinking.
need a path up to a wheelchair accessible.
I think you would.
Yeah. I would think you'd want to put something out in a grassy field or,
Right.
and then have to get to it, so.
Right, you can't, yeah. And that's why we thought heritage, because going up that hill is cement, right?
Correct.
So if we had it close off of that cement area, but I haven't been up there to look at it.
Yeah. I'm wondering, because we're putting in a bunch of new stuff over at Wildflower Park, and a lot of it is going to be, like sensory tactile, like that's the dream for that park. And there is no play equipment on that park currently. Would that be something the Rotary Club would be interested in, is doing it there?
Well, we had talked about putting in a shelter there at one time, but we backed off the idea because that's not a community park, that's gonna be a neighborhood park. And you would have to put a sidewalk, because that's all grassy area. I mean, I couldn't take my kid there to play because I'd have to park in somebody's neighborhood, walk through a yard, and get back to it, right?
You shouldn't, the place I think where they're setting up, all the stuff they're doing right now is on the front end over by the pond, so it's pretty easily accessible.
Is there a parking area?
It's the street, I mean, the street all right there there's no houses there on that section right there next to the park.
Because that was one of our concerns is, no street parking, and then to get to the play equipment, is there, sidewalks or whatever to get there?
Yeah. I just think, I don't know, my thought was just if we are going to put in asphalt, then doing it in a place that like doesn't already have equipment would be nice.
Agreed.
But,
And are you talking about each grade school? Now that there's 3 having equipment?
Yes, we're doing 5 of those, actually. We're gonna put, 1 at the new school, because they already have quite a bit of stuff. And then we're gonna put 2 at the other 2 schools.
So 1 unit there, 2 units at the other schools?
That way they all have, and then we were gonna get the 1 big unit for so.
I think at the very least, I'd like to see the new park finished and see how that like kind of all works with kids playing on it before we added anything else to it, just because of the space, so that we know how it works and where like traffic kind of goes and that kind of thing. And I know you guys are on a time crunch because you have to get your stuff in.
And we have included a lot of inclusive pieces in that as
Yeah.
well. Our engineered wood fiber with ramp is going to be ADA accessible.
Yeah, all of that is.
But yeah, we've got musical instruments, we've got a lot of the tactile, the roller slide that's up.
Yeah,
Same with that spinner we chose, was inclusive as well for children with mobility issues. So that's something to keep in mind. Our swings as well, we're inclusive, 2 inclusive swings are up there now.
yeah.
That's part of that plan that the board recommended.
So it's all gonna be asphalt up there?
It's not all asphalt.
No, actually,
The flooring that we chose, we really specifically wanted it to be ADA compliant and to be accessible for people in wheelchairs.
That's okay.
The surfacing
Yeah.
under a playground has to attenuate to a certain level based on the play height of the surrounding equipment and for safety reasons. So the maximum fall height, your safety surfacing has to attenuate to prevent injuries on a playground. So that's why In fact, it's not recommended at all to have any playground equipment with asphalt underneath it, other than your ground
Yeah.
level play equipment for that reason. But again, that being said, there are components of those, certain components of the larger structures that were designed specifically by this board recommended to include activities for children with whether it's mobility issues or sensory.
Yeah, we tried to
Sensory was a
address
big part
sensory,
of it.
mobility, all of those.
You know, I tried to hit on a lot of the inclusive aspects as well as a fun playground, you know, for all children, so that kids can play side by side, really.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like then you really need too
Yeah,
much of anything.
well, and that's my biggest concern is you don't ever want to just like stuff a ton of things into
Yeah.
one area, and
Yeah, no.
it's just not a big space up there. And I haven't been up there since they put the playground equipment that we actually have at the moment in, and I
Yeah,
know that
it's-
we're waiting on more to come in from customs. So
Yeah, it's 86 by, it's a big, seeing it laid out, it's
Yeah.
large.
But
It's
I
a
mean,
large area.
I would,
That's fine.
I would still love
By
to
the time we
see
put that other piece
this
that's still
happen.
missing, it's
I
gonna
just
be
think
pretty
that in a
Yeah, the other
space
piece that's
that
missing is
has
the biggest
nothing right
piece,
now,
too.
that it could be like a sensory play area, because we have the pond there, they're gonna, I know like a lot of the discussion is like a sunflower field and that kind of thing, where it's
Yeah.
gonna be like lots of
Slide is
sensory type
open.
things. And I think it would be a really
Kids
nice
from
fit
the
to
daycare
go out
center
there at
walk down there
Wildflower.
today.
Because it's not meant to just be neighborhood park.
Yeah,
It's meant to be.
It's got all that turf has.
Well,
paddles.
we saw the diagram, they brought the diagram
that
up,
too.
and so
But
we asked about parking, and we were told no parking.
I'm told
And we
it's
asked
not.
about
So,
restrooms, and they
we'll
said
go through
no.
it
I
all
mean,
when
there's
it's over.
technically, there's
Here's
no
the
parking, but
possible
that
shelter.
street is, it's not that busy of a street there, and when the 4-H,
Yeah.
do you go out 4-H?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
sorry, you were nodding, yeah, but I mean, when the 4-H has been out there working, like, they just park along the street there, and they're not keeping, like, the houses that are across face opposite
there's a-
streets, they don't face that one, so there are no kids, like, crossing back and forth there. It's safer for when people park on that street. It's a really nice park, and the plans for it are awesome. It's gonna be really good if we have a
all the way
long-term plan for it, but.
Great.
On each side.
Yeah.
We just, that's
But I
where
think
the
it might be a
lots of
benefit
work.
too, where we have the
Backflow
ADA
today.
stuff going in Heritage.
Mm-hmm.
If we could, opposite end of town,
Yeah,
have the other ADA type stuff
Mm-hmm.
at that park, just because we've got, you know, the other 3 or 4 neighborhoods to the north,
yeah,
Harborview, Wildflower, Rollins Landing, where that could serve as their go-to park.
yeah.
And you got Diamond Crest.
Right, Diamond Crest and
All of
everything's
them
there.
are very
I love the
good.
possibility of having options for people to, not just like, my kid is in a wheel, I can only go to this park.
Right.
But it would be nice to have all of our parks have an aspect
Inclusive.
Cause
of
did,
inclusivity.
cause did we talk about possibly putting some kind of parking right there off of F? At one time, we didn't, it wasn't.
I don't
in-
think so.
Okay, I couldn't remember or not, but,
No.
but yeah, there is quite a bit of parking
That doesn't mean we can't recommend it.
there, right there on Wildflower, around where the pond is. It's probably,
I think we put in 600 feet of sidewalk.
yeah, so yeah,
Yeah.
there's 600 feet worth of parking, and there's new sidewalk.
100 of it was in the cul-de-sac, but so 500 is.
Oh,
is,
okay.
Feet of sidewalk.
Yeah.
too.
Yeah, and in our budget stuff, Matt just pointed out to me, I did know this was on here, but I've forgotten. We have in our budget to recommend like where to put it in our budget for 2020 to 2025, playground equipment and the basketball court.
Right.
So the plan is other things are coming to that area.
Right.
But it'd be nice to have other things there now, but you know. I just think if we're gonna put the asphalt in, I would like to do it at a different park, but I am one person and this is a board.
My only question, what you said earlier, I'm really curious to truly see play out of it. What's your timeframes? I'd love to see Heritage.
Yeah, I would love to
complete, and
see
then all of a
the
sudden,
plan
like,
that we
oh,
have
this
now
would've been
done.
perfect over
Yeah.
here, you know?
There is a little space over there, yeah.
Yeah, so that's my only concern.
Is it something that we could table until next year? Or is this a one-time grant?
This is a one-time grant,
Okay.
and so, like I said, it sounds like that Heritage is full, Heritage has got the equipment that you need, you know, so I think that we'll let you continue doing that, and I will send out a group email to the Rotary members and just let them know that Heritage is off the table, basically, and if they, you know, want to go forward with something at Wildflower or whether we want to do some more at the school. So I'll just
I mean,
kind of let them decide.
even Helvey wouldn't be a bad one, just because if we're gonna have that structure put in, like, there's no other equipment up there
And
either,
you don't have
so.
any ADA out at Smith Forks either, do you? Playground equipment out
That's
there?
true.
There's nothing.
And we do have a playground there, but there's space.
There are elements of that that are ground level.
Yeah.
Transfer
Yeah.
stations, but it's pretty basic. It's not near as inclusive as what we just
Right.
put at Heritage.
It's not safe, too.
But as far as like, what we have as far as ground stuff, it is.
It
It's
is, yeah,
compliant,
yeah,
The
that's
servicing.
just like the engineered wood fiber and Heritage.
Yeah.
Do you guys are out there more often than anybody else? Is there a space out there for this kind of thing? At Smith's Fork?
I'd say the concrete that goes up to the play area and the bathrooms is there, but the concrete ends at the playground, so
What about-
after that would just be grass around it.
So what about the area between, as you walk down, so you come from the parking lot and you walk down towards the restrooms, the area of grass off to the right? Because then you would have direct access from the parking lot down a sidewalk. And that area to the right, there's nothing there between it and the spillway. And it's probably 30 yards, maybe 40 yards wide. And there's quite a bit of area between the parking lot and the shelter house,
Yeah.
because there is already hard surface there, coming right off of that.
I'm not sure what the slope is on that sidewalk,
Yeah.
coming off that parking lot.
That's true,
Because one in 12, I think, is ADA.
yeah.
It's pretty gradual, but we'd have to
Yeah.
shoot the grade on that.
I think they're at the very beginning in the parking lot, so it's steep,
Yeah.
and then it
Yeah,
levels
that's-
off.
That's concrete, so.
Yeah. Is that something that you think they would be interested in? Just
I
having
don't know,
it as
we've not
Smith's
ever
Fork?
discussed.
And there we'd need
Smith Fork.
90 days approval from the
Yeah,
court.
Right.
Smith Fork, the playground there is, so you know where the campground's at down there?
I do.
Yeah, and there's a playground just to the
North
north
of there.
of the campground.
Demo spillway.
Yeah, there's a bathroom, 2 shelter houses.
Well, I know where the bathroom is in the one shelter house because the Rotary holds their damn run out
Yeah.
there.
That's
yeah.
right.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And so I know where that's at.
So yeah, the playground is just to the west of
That's right.
the
Just
bathroom.
west of
Yeah,
there.
the other side of the restroom.
On the other side of the restrooms.
Yeah.
And I know that that's all grass there. So we have to come in with some sort of, again, asphalt. or
Yep.
I was just thinking, because we already had hard surface,
Yeah, you'd have to put it right on the hard surface.
right? It'd
Or
have to
right
come
off of
right
There
on
might
the
be,
hard surface, but,
where we're gonna get the benches.
but yeah, I guess the thing that threw a wrench in that is the grade of the sidewalk.
Smaller than 90 days court.
And the approval.
So,
Which could be an idea if you did your runs out at Smith Fork, you'd be right there too with something you guys put in.
That would be really nice. That'd be cool.
on your grant, when you apply for that, do you have to have provisions set in place of, this is what we're doing with the grant by these timeframes?
Yes, that's the bad part. I've tried to fight with this because I'm like, okay, well, just tell them we want the money. Because the Rotary has to put in $3,500. You know, that's our skin in the game, so to speak.
Yeah.
So we're putting that in, and then they're going to give us like $10,000 grant for that. So we've got about $13,000 to spend. And so, yes, I said, do we have to allocate every single thing? And they said, yeah. And I said, well, put it in case, what if we get a deal on the equipment? And she said that no, that if we don't use every dollar, we have to give it back.
Yeah.
So, if it came down to where you guys were purchasing equipment for the schools, they're purchasing equipment for the city you want the city to spend the money for the asphalt.
We've asked the schools to do the same thing.
Okay, so say if they go in line with that, is it something where you can purchase all of the equipment
Yes,
and then,
that's our plan, is to purchase all the equipment.
it sounds like a good idea to possibly put it someplace sometime. Does that make sense, I guess?
I don't know if their grant would approve that, if they would approve that.
We have to have it installed by April 30th of next year.
Oh,
So we have 1 year to.
That's how free money works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let me ask you
Yeah.
this, if, say tonight we make a recommendation that we'll do the asphalt, we send that to the city, for whatever reason that doesn't get approved on the budget. What happens?
It's a good question.
they don't get approved, we don't get, nothing happens, is that what I'm
And
understanding?
that's
Is this
the
something
difficult
that
part,
has
is
to go
the-
to parks or planning and zoning before we even go to the full
Yeah.
council? Because you're
Because of
adding,
adding to, right?
Yeah.
Well, and then it's gonna have to go to the Corps for what, 90 days?
90 days, and that's engineered stamp plans of, so if we're talking asphalt, we're talking
Well, and that's
base.
just Heritage. It could be Wildflower.
I guess.
Well, if it's Smithville.
Anywhere you go.
Yeah.
Well, at Smith's Fork, we have to have engineered plans because we work with the Corps and we lease it through them. It's a whole extra thing we have to do with them. If we do it at Wildflower or we do it at Heritage or anywhere else that's actually city property, we don't have to go through that stuff. But
Yeah, the only reason I brought up Heritage or Smith's
Fork.
Fork was because the concrete.
yeah.
It's already
I
there.
like the idea of
Yeah.
Smith's Fork. I think
I
that'd
do
be, especially since you guys do your run out there, I think that'd be awesome. Since you guys are
And I
like
think
there
for that
regularly.
price, concrete's gonna be cheaper than asphalt.
Yeah, I agree. Concrete would definitely be cheaper probably.
I think we could get it done for a decent amount, I mean,
The
low,
city
you know, not too much.
something like
And I'll tell you,
that.
Yeah,
it's
it's
great
7.5 yards.
Get out there as much as we can there.
So
Cool, you're fighting better than they.
does someone want to make a motion for a recommendation for anything?
Do you have to make I guess I say, do you have to make a motion for a recommend, I guess you.
Can we,
have
if
to-
it's not on our agenda?
Oh, well, this
Point of order.
would, it's new, it'd be new business we'd have to take up probably.
At the next
At
meeting.
the next
Right.
meeting.
Yeah, just-
I'd make a motion,
True.
yeah, we'd be making a motion
Holy
to
moly.
address
Yeah,
it at
because
the
we
next,
can't make a
right?
record.
Yeah,
Not on the agenda.
Because it wasn't posted.
So let me ask
Yeah, they would have
this,
to
if you guys make your application and then our end of it falls through for whatever reason, we can't do the asphalt. You guys have said you would do one thing in the asphalt, or we do the asphalt and you can do two, correct? Right. Do you have to apply specifically for two pieces of equipment or the one piece of equipment in the asphalt?
I don't know
Can you
that.
put
I
that
know that was,
stipulation
that was the options they gave me. We can do one piece plus the asphalt, or we can do two pieces and you do the asphalt. I'm sorry, I can't answer your question.
You're fine, it's okay.
This was kind of quick and
I understand. Since it is new business and we're gonna have to talk about it next time, this is what I'm gonna put out here. This is not a motion or anything. I do believe that it's something we could get taken care of on the budget, but we do also have other things we would like to get taken care of for our budget. And this is me personally, I would like to see the music equipment and the asphalt from you guys, and then we could get approved to put it somewhere much more simply than we could get it approved to get things paid to pay for the asphalt. Does that make sense? So I think it would be a great idea if you guys are gonna do the application, if you're willing to do it at Smith's Fork or at a park, to do that for the asphalt or for the concrete or whatever service that you guys wanna do, and then the one piece of equipment, so that we can come back later and be like, okay, we recommend that this is where this gets put, instead of us trying to add another budget line. Does that make sense?
Yeah, as in this board doesn't allocate,
Yes.
is not in charge of a budget. That is the
Yeah.
Board of Aldermen.
Yeah. So it's gonna have to, I mean, we would be recommending something to them, but they're the ones that are eventually gonna have to do it. That's a lot of time that you don't have. But as far as putting something somewhere, we can make that recommendation. I feel like that could get done much more simply than asking
next
for them
meeting.
to add a budget line.
However, your timeframe isn't the next meeting.
right,
No.
no, so what we would have to do is we would have to say, we're going to place this piece of equipment in this part, in like Smith's Fork Park, and we're gonna do the asphalt, so we're gonna tell them that's what we're doing. And so it would all come down to, you would just have to give us the approval to put it there if that
What's your
comes
date?
down.
You have to have it by?
April 30th.
April 30th, which is Tuesday.
Oh,
And then,
Yeah.
and Smith's Fork is hinging on
A lot of other
Yeah.
things.
more than anything.
Yeah.
It's a big one.
yeah, I don't know that we can get that done.
So that's why I say it sounds like a lot of this is kind of
Yeah.
iffy anyway.
Yeah,
To anything,
It just with that tight time frame, that's not,
Yeah.
If that
It-
is the case,
we need more
it might not
time.
be a bad idea
Yeah.
to go ahead
to get the approvals.
Yeah.
and place whatever you can place for the amount you have at the schools.
yeah.
Because really, right now, I think that would be more of an important deal anyway.
Yeah.
And then maybe come back later and think about an expansion in one of the other places.
Yeah, maybe if another
Yeah.
grant comes available, you can come back and see us and
Yeah.
Yes.
we can get a plan together.
But at least get the ones that. all-
Well, and I mean, even if you can get that grant money to put more at the schools where we have kids that need it, do that.
Yeah.
Because
That's
we are really working hard to make our parks ADA compliant, and, I mean, I know that's something we have to do, but I mean, we're working really
Inclusive.
hard to make them inclusive for kids
That's what it
involved,
sounds
so.
like. Yeah, it sounds like you guys have got a handle on this,
Yeah.
and we didn't know how much of a handle you did or didn't have. This was just kind of something we were rolling with. And, so yes, we'll just, try and do as much as we can, because the school is on board. They're
Cool.
Good.
They're
That's
ready to
great.
roll with
That's
it.
awesome.
Yeah, so, thanks for your time, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And like I said, nobody, I guess think about how much you all have to go through to get something
Yeah.
done. And so.
It's a lot of people that it touches and have hands on it, so.
We
But
get
thank
it.
you for coming tonight, I appreciate it.
Absolutely, thanks for
Good luck
having
on
me, I
that.
appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you, Linda.
Uh-huh.
Since we're in new business, and that's where we moved it, does anyone else have any new business? Because we're not gonna budget and then go back to new business, correct? We're in new business.
No, we've
currently.
moved the, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Does anyone have anything in new business? No? Okay. All right, then let's move on to budget and CIP priorities. Do we have any kind of presentation, anything at all, or are we mostly just discussing and trying to put this in an order?
Priorities are the name of the game tonight.
Okay,
My idea was maybe to go down the list, one by one, and then maybe kind of rank it between like 1 to 3, 1 being we want this one at the top, and then 2 kind of iffy, and 3 we could wait on. This way we can take the ones and put them at the top, and then kind of pick if they're too expensive or not and stuff like that.
Well, and keep in mind, what we're
Yeah.
looking to do here is establish priorities for the Board of Aldermen through not only the 2020 budget, but also a 5-year CIP plan, which is 2020 through 2025. And so that's kind of the lens we should be looking through
what is
when
that
we write
acronym? CIP?
Capital Improvement
Yes,
Program.
I'm sorry, I knew that.
Thank you for asking.
I was just like, but what is that?
I'm
Okay.
sorry.
No, you're
And that's
fine.
my fault, because I just,
You're fine.
Yeah,
I
the
actually
same
did
thing.
know that, and when you said it, I was
Yeah.
like, oh, no, I know what that is.
Makes
I know what
sense.
that is.
so that's really, and as we look at setting these things on a calendar, let's move the higher priorities up to the first, next year, the year after, and then the lower priorities can kind of be towards the end of that CIP program. Does that make sense?
Does everyone have a copy of this currently?
But I need a pen.
Need a pen?
I got you. I need a pen as well.
Can we, before we go through line by line, can everyone just take a look through and maybe pick out 2 that you're like, that needs done first? And that'll give us a place to jump off, I think.
Something that's not on the list
Uh-huh.
that I mentioned to Brett when I went up and looked at the new playground at Heritage Park is that railroad tie retaining wall next to the sidewalk, I think needs to be considered as well. I mean, we've got that really nice new playground and that wall's.
Is it leaning?
We tried to straighten it up.
Oh, did you?
We tried.
Yeah.
When were we up there? Friday?
I was up there Saturday or.
Yeah. Oh, that was after we tried to straighten it up, believe it or not.
But I
Can
noticed
you,
that.
I will not hold you to it, but just to give me a mental place of where we are, can you tell me a baseline of how much it would be to straighten that up?
It's already
The railroad
straight-
ties are
straight-
rotten.
straight.
Okay.
It's not.
Do you know how
fixing
much it was to fix the one out at Dynacrest? Roughly.
Roughly.
Just roughly.
Yeah, $14,000.
Okay, do you think it would be similar?
How much?
$14,000.
You're only,
That
I'm
was-
wondering if it would be about the same
About the
amount
same-
because of the
same
distance if
footage.
you added both
I'm not
sides
sure
of
how
the
much
one
that
up.
is. So yeah, I mean, we could throw 16 on it.
Okay, that's why I'm just thinking that's not a definite number, but that's a good place
I
to,
wonder
Where
how
is
confident
this
that
wall?
up there.
I'm just having trouble. Where is this?
It's by the T-ball field going up. There's a sidewalk up the hill towards the high ground where the new playground equipment is.
Yes.
And these are railroad ties that were just basically placed along the surface of that to hold it's not very high.
Do we
It's-
need railroad ties there? I can't think you remove.
Something would have to be there.
Yeah.
I think it would wash and cut if you didn't.
well, because it floods up to there, doesn't it usually?
The bottom part of that flood's not up to it. It's just a matter of,
Yeah.
there's a slope there. It's to keep it off that sidewalk,
Okay.
to keep the dirt off that sidewalk. But yeah, when we were trying to straighten it out, it was, I mean, if you looked at it wrong, stuff was falling apart.
Yeah.
And so,
Better off leaving it
yeah,
alone.
like I said, we can throw I can definitely get a better number for
That's
that.
fine, yeah, it's just a good, I don't know, it's just a good mental number for us.
Right.
Okay.
So we are gonna go through them line by line. I don't know if you heard me before you left.
Okay.
I wanted everyone to just like look through
Okay.
and pick like 2 or 3 things that you're like, that needs done first. And when you see it, feel free to shout it out.
So on the electrical out to the playground, or campground, is that large panel, is that closer to the entrance,
No, the large panel's farther back.
further back?
Yeah, the small
So
panel's
the
the one
small
near the
panels.
entrance.
And have you already done some of the small panels, and this, would this
This
finish
is-
up the small panels?
Both of those together would finish them up, yeah. Yeah, those are the only 2 panels left.
You've talked to the mayor about places that he's possibly fundraising some of these
Y-
things?
Yeah, some things to
Can you
add there.
tell
I
me
know
what
he's
those are?
working on collecting some money through the Legacy Fund for the Wildflower Park Education Garden.
Okay.
And also the Heritage Park new restroom facility by playground area. There's talks as that comes on board through the planning and zoning process of perhaps that being done.
So we don't necessarily want to throw that at the bottom of the list, if that's something we want early. It's just.
It just may
could
come
get-
off the list sooner,
Okay.
if that makes sense. And so those are some things that I know we've discussed.
Does anyone have anything that they're like, this needs done first?
Well, I am firstly just looking at, and trying to find that item, but there's very small dollar items, you know, and I wonder what the budget is, but I'd almost love to just throw all those small things, be like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, let's do it, 3,000, okay.
Yeah.
But I do look at the Heritage Park new restaurant facility by the new playground is probably pretty important for sure.
My personal feelings on Heritage, I think we need to take care of our parking lot. That parking lot is falling apart.
I would agree with you there.
And also the parking, over
And
towards the tennis courts,
expanding that.
expanding it,
Yeah, towards the new playground.
We had parking off to the other side.
Right.
That's our overflow parking. People don't know it's there, which
Alright.
doesn't mean that it can get used, but if they're gonna use the new playground, there is a place to park up there, correct?
And that's on here.
But there's
It's
not
a-
much.
It's the Heritage new asphalt parking by the new
Okay.
playground equipment, which I think would probably be a good spot too, because people
Yeah.
have already called me up and saying it's a far distance from where they're at from the other playground.
Yeah.
And that ramp is definitely not ADA.
No, so
Yeah.
at
It's
least
like with the retaining wall.
there should probably be some sooner than later for that new playground if it's gonna be up there.
So should we put those 2
I would
as number
personally
ones?
put those 2 at the top of the list. Does
Are we
anyone have
comfortable with
anything
that?
else that they wanna fight for to go above that?
No, I think that's.
Is that good?
Okay. So I'm gonna say the tennis courts, like over to the tennis courts, and then the new parking up by the playground equipment. Does that work for an order?
I just put them both as number 1s.
That sounds great.
Is that good for you guys?
I'm okay with
So the
that.
first 2, the 2 part, the parking lot, the other,
And then, restroom facility, I don't know if it should be up there or not. Like I said, if it comes off, fine.
Wasn't that something the builders?
I'm
Yeah.
just thinking that that's probably where I haven't heard that
Yeah,
it's
me
not
either.
going that way, but not heard.
I said it
But
would
again, I
Yeah.
still would like to prioritize that, and again, if it comes off, excellent. And it doesn't have to be, maybe it's a 2, that's fine. But I think if people are parking over that direction, they're not gonna wanna
That
hoof
was
it
my
over.
number one, and if we're getting phone calls, you guys said about walking up there, then,
Restrooms are big. Restroom and parking lot have been 2 big questions.
Like I said, if that comes
Not
off
gonna be up there.
and doesn't affect our budget, that's great too. It's just check mark.
Yeah.
It's done.
My other thought on that is, we have done a lot. We've put new equipment in at Heritage. If that's gonna be our first thing on the budget that we recommend, then the parking lots would be next. So we're putting a lot of money into Heritage Park. We have other parks we have to take care of, even if it's small additions that happen to them. And so would it make sense to do some of the smaller budget things over at like Wildflower to get them going? Because I know that we're putting things in there, and I think some
That's
people
what I
are
was
like
gonna tell you.
donating to put some things in, but
I
I
feel
would
like
like.
we're spending a lot of time in Wildfire
Really?
Park this year.
Well,
I mean, with the shed and gardens, I mean, they're
Yeah.
longer term things, but
Yeah. I just don't,
but
like,
yeah, that's- I mean-
I wanna take care of our community, and I know that, like, Heritage is our main community park, but we have other things that have not been neglected up to this point necessarily, but, like, there's not been much at Heritage Park up to this point, and I would like to see them get some love and get taken care of.
Sure.
not necessarily that has to come first, but just a thought of like prioritizing what it is that we're gonna recommend that comes in next. Because there are bathrooms at Heritage. Yes, we need a bathroom up there by the new park, absolutely. It's just, do we need to put something in a wildflower first?
Well, I think that's something that additional restroom facility may eliminate the need to insulate and heat the existing restroom at Heritage Park. If we put one in that is year-round up by that new playground, I would say we don't need 2 year-round bathrooms in the same park.
2 year-round bathrooms?
Right. For that kind of, for another $65,000.
No, probably not, because the only time, because there's not gonna be player equipment down at the bottom there by the ball fields anymore, essentially.
When is that coming out? Are they coming out?
Yeah, it'll come out when the
Parking lot.
new stuff's done.
Gotcha.
And our intent is to leave the swings and probably dig that pea gravel out and put mulch in underneath those swings as well.
Dang, I thought you were gonna take those swings out, I was gonna see.
But I would say, yeah, if that's the case, then the year-round
Good,
needs
I
to
mean,
be up
that's an
top.
option.
Yeah.
And
Bingo.
leave the other like it is.
I
And
like
we can still
that
get a
idea.
porta
You're not
john.
playing baseball and
Right,
soccer and all that
right.
stuff in the winter,
No.
so.
So that'd be something to consider as well. I mean, that puts maybe a little more weight on that other bathroom if it's year-round,
Yeah.
which we've talked about with the mayor as a, an option for a developer to do, then that may take that
Yeah.
off the list, if you want.
So maybe for now, that one becomes a lower priority.
Bingo.
I would
So you
say
don't
kick
get-
it all the way to 5.
10?
Yeah, 12, 14.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know that it's.
I wouldn't remove it,
Right,
just
you
put it clear down.
Put it
the
as
list.
a-
This one, the park upgrades.
Yeah.
The drinking fountain additions, are those the ones that are there?
Some of that I
Or are they
wonder,
wanting to put it up at the new?
I'm
That
not
was
sure.
Yeah, wasn't that something they were gonna put in the grant when we did the trails?
Right, I think that'll be covered with the grant.
Yeah.
What's that?
That we put in for the drinking fountain additions at
Oh, yeah.
Heritage Park. When we applied for that recreational trails grant, which we did actually, I should have put that in my report. We have made it to the next step in the process. They're gonna come to a site
good.
visit in June.
Oh, nice.
So that's good news.
It's pretty cool.
Thanks for bringing that up.
So
But yeah,
maybe we should find out what's on the grant and deprioritize all of those
Yeah.
things real quick.
Yeah, I know the water fountain was on there, so.
Anything else?
So was that multiple fountains around the park? Or was that
no,
fountains
that was
just in the?
just one.
Trailheads, I think, somewhere,
Right, this would be, it'd be up near the trail or the.
playground.
The playground.
Oh, okay.
As that Main Street trail goes right by where the entrance for that new parking lot would be.
Okay.
Up at Heritage. So my thinking would be near there, classifying that also as a trailhead. Small parking area could be classified as a trailhead. We could add
Talking about,
amenities.
talking about trailhead, there's nothing on here about the little water park that's supposed to go in up there, Diamond Crest Park,
A
right?
developer's doing that.
I know the developer's doing that, but is there anything else we need to consider on here in the next 5 years?
Is the
Like-
trail that goes from Diamond Crest up to where that's gonna be, is that finished?
It's got millings down on it until I know where to go.
Gotcha, okay.
So we're waiting on that splash, and I haven't seen plans on the splash park. I'm not sure. I need to get a check on that.
Okay.
You know what I
didn't-
mean? Because that foundation's been there for a couple of months now, hasn't it?
Well,
Long
that
anyway.
foundation up
Just for
there
the
is where their
clubhouse?
swimming pool and their clubhouse.
Okay.
But they're putting next to that,
Is the
in the
splash pad?
city's park up there.
Okay.
Splash pad.
Yeah, I haven't seen plans on that yet, so I'm not
Oh.
sure what we may need for that.
Okay.
I'm not sure where that is on the,
Will
I
we
didn't
need,
know if we'd need to look at
Maybe
a little metal
benches
shelter
or
house or
shelters.
eventually
Yeah,
something
that's-
there eventually, so I don't know
Yeah, I need to give a
whether
check
that's
and see if there's
important
a
for
plan
the
with it.
CIP or
could,
not.
it could be.
Alright, so go ahead, Patrick.
So we got the first two as number one. I would just move that, just number 3, number 4, number 5, we take this, Smith Forks basketball court, $20,000, court lighting, Wildflower Park educational garden at $3,500, and the Heritage Park sidewalk to new parking lot between fields 1 and 2 for $15,000, kind of just move on with some of the smaller items.
Between field 1 and 2.
So that's
Parking
parking lot between fields 1 and 2.
Mm-hmm.
So is that gonna,
That would, the idea behind that, I think, was to make that overflow parking more usable.
right?
yeah,
Is there a sidewalk that goes there though?
yeah, you just take the
You just have to
trail.
take the
Yeah.
trail around, and if we're gonna look
Oh,
at this
the
parking lot
sidewalk.
expansion being number
There's
one,
one
but
between the two fields.
I don't know where that would still fall, having a sidewalk in between the two fields.
Right.
If we're gonna have a nice new parking lot there that drains properly. something to kind of think, then that might become less important too now, you
Yeah,
know what I
I'd
mean?
like to put that off because,
People might make it their own trail if people start using
Yeah.
it more.
That's true.
I
We
mean, I'm
haven't
just
seen
thinking
a
like when we
beaten
play
down
ball,
route.
if walking your equipment and everything that far on the grass to another parking lot over there, not
It is
that big
strange
of a
that
deal.
people just stack up on the street,
Because I mean,
in that parking lot over there sits empty. It's 54 spots,
Yeah,
I sent out an
close to
email
the ball
on Tuesday,
fields.
yeah.
Just
of just like, hey, you.
We'll continue to the education
And I
piece
think
on
that's
that.
just the biggest part of it is,
Yeah.
until people know it's over there, I
Because
think it's
I know
okay,
we
so need to
we
put-
added a sign last year on the 4 foot by 4 foot Heritage Park parking that you can see from the bleachers.
Yeah.
Thinking maybe someone would see it about the first game and the second game, so we can continue to hit that up.
I do like the
educationally.
idea of bumping up the Wildflower Park Educational Garden up.
Okay.
It's also one of those things that could get knocked off the list.
And I believe that's
by something
underway,
else.
yeah.
And I-
Or be included with the 4-H
I would like to
community
see it done
gardens.
quickly, whether that someone else is taking care of it or whether or not our Parks Department is
Yeah,
taking care
I
of it.
believe
So
we're
I like
on-
the idea of bumping it.
I want to go back to campground a little bit. Do we have a demand for more of these upgrades to be done? Do
Well,
we-
the
we're
reports
going to-
the reports last year were that we didn't sell out the 50 amp sites. Yeah, and so that's what, yeah. So
Okay, I just didn't
We
So
want
may
we're
be-
not
we
gonna
may be
rush to
good
get
for
the
a while.
campground done? Is that what I'm understanding?
I don't know that we,
We'll see how this year goes. We got
Okay.
Memorial Day coming up and
So maybe
we're
that's like
tracking
a
that
two,
compared to last
2 or
year.
3.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just one of those things that most people with the upgrade their RV, they're going to a 50 amp spot, but at the same time, if we're not selling out our 50 amp spots now,
Why-
is
no,
there a
we don't
demand?
need to do it, but I just want to make
Is there
sure we
demand
weren't
for that?
maxing out.
Yeah.
We absolutely needed
No,
to do
we'll,
that. Okay.
we'll,
Well, and I know
we'll
that when we
make-
discussed in a
Yeah.
previous meeting, the thing that was really nice about us doing the upgrades was they were gonna pay for themselves rather quickly through rental, and if that's not happening, then.
Well, and we're going with the longer season this year too. So
Yeah.
that, I think we'll see what revenues do. We've extended our stay last summer too to 30 days. So we're doing some things and Easter egg hunts and stuff like that to
Yeah.
try and drive some camping juju, if you will, as far as getting the word out. Grassroots kind of campaigns and
So if we've got Heritage Park parking lot expansion, the Heritage Park new asphalt parking area by the playground equipment up there is 1. Do we want to bump the Wildflower Park Educational Garden up to 2? And then if it gets taken care of by someone else, it does, and we'll move on to the next thing? Does that work? All right, so let's get that on as number 2.
Maybe we should put the shelter house at Wildflower.
I kind of think so too. I like the idea of going ahead and getting that done as well. I feel like if we have a shelter house there, even the community can use it. You can fish and have a birthday party or whatever
So
else
we're
is
gonna-
out
we're gonna
there.
Plug that one in as number 2 also.
I think so.
Both two.
Does that work?
This number could be a lot cheaper if we go with the Costco one, right?
yes,
But you still have to pour the pad.
still gotta get the pads and
That's
that's
true.
a lot smaller than,
Okay.
So it could be a space for even saving money.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I
Or,
like, yeah,
or
I
there
like
could
the
be
idea
there
of
could be
getting that
another
done.
civic organization that wants to do a project, and so that's, again, by having this list, if they come off, that's great. But we still want the priorities from this committee.
Does anyone personally see anything they would rather see happen before the Wildflower Park playground equipment? As far as like a number 3 moving along?
You know, just kind of what you started with, it kind of made sense to me. We went to Heritage, we've done some things at Wildflower, I'd like to, we want to spend.
I'd like to see a park
Yeah.
at Wildflower, like a park place that kids can play.
That's on here too, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, like, can we make that the next budget item, or does someone else have something that they think that needs to happen next? Before the
I
playground
personally would
equipment
like to
comes
see
in?
the retaining wall done at Heritage Park
Okay.
next to the new playground.
Before the Wildflower playground equipment?
Yeah,
I don't-
especially if
I-
it
you
becomes,
know-
I mean, how much has it gone downhill in the last couple of years? Is erosion causing it to get worse?
It hasn't been a high priority area the last couple of
Right.
years because it's a
So
sidewalk
we
going
have
up
to
the
pay much
hill.
attention to
Right.
what's going on.
And again, and I haven't looked at it real close. I was out there today, moving some dirt, but I didn't look at that at the railroad ties since we
Well,
tried
and
to
if we're
straighten
gonna
them
put
out.
if we're gonna put a parking lot up there, it's not gonna be something that you have to walk from the lower to the upper level, correct? I mean, we don't wanna have to shut it down if it's in major disrepair, but it will be accessible from both sides.
It's
not
definitely
something
gonna be
you
a
have to-
higher visibility area now.
Yeah.
I agree. People are gonna notice that.
Okay.
And the fact that you've got the slide is just on the other side of that sidewalk where that's at.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe you just really look at that, and I don't know if that's something with what it would cost us to have,
Maybe we just
something like that
agree.
would be on the CIP, or just look at putting that in the
And
budget.
yeah, and, well, that's all of this, then it's up to
I
you
know,
guys
right, but
to decide what,
if that could be like parks repairs versus,
yeah.
I just really wish I could
I would think so.
understand this
that's what I'm
retaining. I
wondering
don't
for the,
Yeah.
See if I got a
So you know where the
picture.
T-ball field is here?
a different line item in your CIP, you know what I mean?
No, it's.
As
instead of
something
being
that is
straight
just
up
like,
down,
this is something we have to get done because it's just maintenance.
Right.
Yeah.
It just.
To me, it's
holds-
already
holds that-
there.
It holds all the earth.
So you're really
So
maintaining
it's
that,
the-
where this is new stuff.
Yeah, I agree, yeah.
You
It's the whole
know, even though the
grade.
campground is kind of like maintenance, but it's a different
It
type of
is.
maintenance, but you're gonna make some money off of that. maybe.
Can we-
Is that 5 foot tall,
So-
tallest part in that wall?
I don't think it's even that, I think it's 2 or 3
It's
stacked
just
up.
Yeah.
Two
maybe
even.
two stacked
Yeah.
up.
It's
not
just, it's just meant to hold that, yeah.
And then it's,
No,
that's
no,
what's,
he's not saying it's 16,000. What, the number that I asked him for was what happened out at Diamond Crest, which was more
no,
than that, correct?
yeah, over here it was 14,000 for Diamond Crest, we're over here chatting, kind of thinking it's gonna be close.
Yeah,
And I have-
so
I
I
mean,
was
I
just trying to
know,
get a
it was-
ballpark figure, so it's not
Doesn't matter,
$16,000.
I mean,
We
I'll
don't
get a
know how
number,
much it is.
I'll get a number for it.
Okay. I can imagine railroad ties at 3 feet, 2 to 3 feet.
No, this is
No, they're maybe
two or three high, maybe,
Replacing the railroad ties with something else,
could be,
correct?
yeah. Yeah, we're pricing it off of that poured walls we put at Diamond Crest last year.
Oh, okay.
Know what I
I
mean?
really
That's how we got
wonder.
16,000, just guessing. And we haven't measured, we have no idea, we're just imagining.
And you could, yeah, that's all I'm doing, and maybe you could just
We can plug
amend your
a better number
CIP next year, like look into
Yeah.
how much footage you really
Well, I
have
think I
there
can
and
get a number,
stuff.
yeah, I can get a number pretty quick, I think, on that.
So from there, can we do the playground equipment as a number 3 option?
Do whatever
And
you
then
want.
retaining wall right after that, if it's not gonna get taken care of under something else? Can we do that?
So we're talking about wildflower park playground equipment,
Uh-huh,
65K?
yeah. And then that retaining wall, get that taken care of if it's not gonna be taken care of as
We
part
got
of
threes now?
maintenance. Does that work?
Deal with that.
So your playground equipment's a 3.
Wildflower.
And then the tear off the wall and replace it as a 3?
Okay, so at this point, when
That
these
is
things are done, do it.
Yeah, go ahead.
When these things are done, Heritage is gonna be looking pretty good, it's pretty accessible, Wildflower is gonna have some things. What do we wanna move on to from there? Cause I'm kinda looking at this in phases, where it's like, if these things that we've labeled out as 1, 2, and 3 get done, that's a good phase to be like, okay, let's move on to doing more stuff.
So,
Where it's like upgrades on things.
The ball field at Smith's Fork is not included in this. So with that being on its way to being done, what else at Smith's Fork?
I've
Is
got,
there something else?
I've got that soccer road on here that's half milling still.
Right.
It's been on there
Has
for a
there
couple
been
years.
issues with that?
Well, we had it allocated
Is it the one
2 or 3 years
from
ago. It's right by our shop.
DD out?
Yeah, it's
in-
Main Street
okay.
now, but yeah.
Yeah, okay.
From Main Street to the parking lot by the baseball fields.
Right.
That was a project, we had engineering done and we performed the work in-house, but our base failed on the road. And we did it as part of the street asphalt program
Right.
that year. And so
It just-
we made some adjustments, and the parking lot is done.
Yeah.
Base and top coat. The half of the road that is done has only got the base asphalt on it, and the rest is just millings. So right now it's half a gravel road, more or less, the millings, and then the rest of it's just base asphalt.
How long will that last before it has to be redone?
It all depends on if the base is, hard to say. It's hard to say now with 2 or 3 years of traffic on it, is that
Sure.
base good now?
Right.
Okay, which would affect this number.
But if it hasn't affected the base to the point where the base has to be redone, it's probably a smart idea to do it now.
Yeah.
Or.
Rather than
As
later.
it comes in, yeah.
Right.
How does the idea of getting that and the lights for the basketball courts, and we'll say Smith's Fork has been upgraded
There you go.
to
That's
the
what I
same
think about it,
extent that
kind of
Wildflower
part to part. I
and.
like that idea.
Cause then I'm like, what I wanna take care of is like the major complaints for each area, hit those, and then like make nice upgrades to things. So if we can take care of those next,
I agree with that.
I think that that would be really nice, and then we can upgrade bathrooms and add extra stuff to places. So 4 is gonna be Smith's Fork, Soccer Road completion, and
The light.
the lights.
Lights at the basketball court.
And then I guess once it comes time and you're at number 4 for the road, if it's now turned into a $85,000 project,
Let's just
then
have,
we just address it, you can address it and go
Yeah.
from there, yeah.
yeah.
Okay, from there. This looks like at least 2 years down the road, if not 3. I don't know. It just, doing the campground stuff, I know is gonna be at least another year, if not further, that we won't know really where we need to put it. I hate to shove it down at the bottom of the list, but I'm also just like, do we need it right now? Do we not need it right now?
We're
I would
tracking,
rather see
every
other
week we're
things
tracking our
happen if we
occupancy.
don't need
No,
it
I
done, so.
That's all, that's why we're having this meeting, Dan.
The one thing
Do
I
I
did see,
have, do we have to put all of these in an order tonight, or can we start with what we've got and then?
I think, yeah, what you got looks,
You think that's all right?
yeah.
So with the
How do you feel
campground,
It's a lot
I
of
think you
money.
just move those to the top in the order
Yeah.
that we have here and just move everything else down.
Yeah.
They're still
You good
on the
with that?
list.
Yeah, we're not
We're
taking,
not
a
removing.
few I think
And this
are,
board is not going anywhere currently, so I mean, we could come back later and be like, hey, we'd like to recommend that this gets bumped up.
and if we start selling out 50 amps in the campground, then maybe
Yeah,
that's something we want
if
to talk
that
about
need
later
gets
on.
there, that could always be something that comes to
Right.
the board that gets recommended over to the alderman.
Because
Does
May
that work?
7th, I think, is at a work session, you guys are talking about CIP. So that's what I was wanting to get the information tonight from you guys as far as priorities for that to plug into the
what
CIP.
campgrounds are these for?
Smith Fork, it's all Smith
It's all
Fork.
Smith Fork.
It's all Smith, that's the only campground we've got.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
So you come to that meeting, don't you, but you just sit back and listen to us?
yeah.
So let me
I'm gonna
just
try
run
that.
over really quick. So at 1, first priority is gonna be the parking lot at Heritage, the main parking lot overextended into the tennis courts, and then the new parking area up by the new playground equipment.
That's the 9th.
The second
Yeah,
is
that's-
gonna be the
that's
Wildflower Park Shelter House and the Educational Garden. Next, right after that, is going to be the Wildflower Park Playground equipment and the Heritage Railroad Tie retaining wall, if that needs done, through budgetary things. And then, 4 is the Smith Fork Park Soccer Road completion and the basketball court lighting. And everything else is gonna get bumped down.
Perfect.
Will that lighting just do the basketball court?
No, it'll be basketball court and tennis
And
court,
tennis
that's
court.
mine too.
I have one question, what does the Heritage Park security system actually entail?
That was something we'd looked at a few years ago
I
with
remember talking
vandalism.
about it.
Vandalism that happens at Heritage Park in the courtyard.
Oh, so just cameras.
Yeah, and it actually would start here and go through the courtyard as well, to kind of keep an eye
That's
on
only
our,
$25,000.
that was the estimate I've got for that. The mayor's got some insight on that too, I think he might be able to figure a way to do it
Seems
less
very
than that.
reasonable for security.
Sometimes, yeah, but sometimes like what Chief had done stuff in the past where it was kind of like, you just have a picture of them basically.
Right.
So then,
Yeah, you
yeah.
know, the downtown
Like
square,
trail
it goes
cam
from here to
Well,
there.
it's just,
and that's-
not much comes out.
That's something, the mayor knows, I mean, that's more in his wheelhouse, he's got some ideas on that, I think, as far as how to, Wi-Fi in downtown and stuff like that, and some stuff we've talked about. It's come up once or twice for sure. So, no, I think that's perfect, that's the direction we're looking for. So thank you, everyone, there's
Okay.
definitely a lot of directions.
Does anyone have anything, do we need to make a motion that this is our recommendation, or are we
And then
good with
the
what we've done
9th.
thus far, Brett?
What's that?
Do we need to actually make a motion that this is our recommendation?
I think
Budgetary
direct,
things? Or is what we've done?
I think direction is what I'm looking for, and this is what
Okay.
I have. I think we're good, I don't think this needs to be anything formal.
Okay,
And then this is what you're gonna
And
present
then
for us for
that'll-
our work session on the 7th.
Bingo. I'm gonna get this to Dan tomorrow to put in and across the 5 years of the CIP and maybe the ones going in the budget for next year, something like that. That'll be up to the
well,
board.
and I think that vision of, like I said, like, let's get some things
Spread it
done.
around.
And I just wanna see some things done and like everybody gets something and then like upgrade from that point, so I think that that'll work really well. Does anyone have anything else, any other discussion, anything at all?
Number
I have a
8.
question.
Yes.
I know we have a really slow plan right now, but as the team representative, I feel as though I'm obligated to ask, like, when we think the Wildflower basketball courts might go in, basketball court, just because we have a lot of teams going to YMCA and they're not staying in town. I know that's what we want. That's what me and the mayor discussed.
It was something that I was gonna want next. Cause yeah,
And we are taking care of the Smith Fork Park basketball.
I think one thing you could look at with your question there is if the developer moves forwards with our number 2 of the restroom facilities, maybe then you could look at doing the basketball court at Wildflower.
I think So this
Like your
is,
one number two could possibly be substituted with the basketball
I
court.
think that we wouldn't just slide everything up.
I just know that
Just slide it up and just go from there.
That's my fault.
The main
I don't know.
neighborhoods,
It's up to,
Yeah.
it's up to
You
you
know,
guys. It's all up to the board of aldermen.
Yeah.
it is.
You know what I
And
mean?
I'm everything
That's
here,
a lot of like.
So it's whatever you want to do.
Yeah.
You want to do that, yeah.
So I think Wildflower's just closer and a lot of people would end up going there.
yeah, and I like that idea. Can we put it next on the list of like what we've got right now, put it next on the list, and then if that
Sure.
bathroom does get taken care of, like, that will get bumped up to a 4 spot, correct?
Yeah,
That's my vision, but again, that's all up to
Yeah, yeah,
the
But like I
board of
just
aldermen.
said, as an alderman, I'm sitting here looking at, okay, let's say we don't have to do the estimated 120 for the restrooms. Maybe we look at bumping everything on up, and maybe
Yeah.
the board may even look at, hey, we really need a basketball court. We're gonna do that.
Yeah.
This is really
Well,
your guideline to the board. of
We've
where
got
we wanna go.
plans, I mean, I know that something we've discussed is putting basketball courts in at Heritage because it's central in downtown. We do have them at Smith's Fork. I would like to see some in the northern part of the city. It's always hard because I never want to just be like, oh, we only cater to the kids. We also want to cater to our teenagers. And so, I feel like mentally, the first place I went was, we'll put playground equipment in there because there's a bunch of kids that live there, but there's also a bunch of teenagers that live there too. Can we rope those two things together, the playground equipment and the basketball court? That if we put in one, we put in the other? At Wildflower? Or would you consider?
Concerns, I'm sure.
Yes. Yeah.
It all depends on the budget, you know,
Yeah.
but I think with what you have here, and even if you leave things as they are now, we just move everything else up. And maybe of what's left that's not numbered, maybe the very first one
Is
on that list
Yeah.
would be the basketball court.
I just put a 5.
Because if $120,000
You know what I mean?
don't have to go out for that bathroom, that $75,000 is, oh, we have plenty of money to
So if you
throw that
take
in
that
next.
out, then you can look, okay, you could do your, both number threes
Yeah.
and
So
start moving
Look
everything
at
So-
the
up.
playground equipment and the basketball court is number 3s.
Well, we can either do that, or we can put the basketball court as, an additional number 4, or as like a number 5, of like, if when all these things are done, it'll be the next thing that we would like to see done.
Well, then we probably are moving anything Smithport Parks into the following year, possibly.
That's all up to the board of aldermen.
Yeah, that's all. it's-
Again, we're
this
just
is
looking
our
for a ranking.
recommendation.
Let's not
Yeah.
get too deep in the weeds
So we got
here
two number
as far as.
Right.
2 number 2s, 2 number 4s.
2 number 3s, 2 number 4s.
Yeah,
That's
Do we
what
wanna
we've
just
got
put
over
it
here.
as, we'll put it as number 5.
Put it as number
And then
5.
it'll be the next thing that gets done.
yeah,
Yeah, then it will ensure it's at the top that, yeah. Is that workforce that they would like lights?
Yeah,
And so I
agree
think,
with Jeff too, that if you really
right.
like that.
yeah, okay, cool. Let's do that then. So it's gonna be our number 5 spot.
yeah,
I've lost it on my page. Thank you, Matt.
Third one down, fourth one down.
yep. Between the
Yeah.
3 and the 4 there. Okay.
Wait, that's Heritage. There we go. Okay, anyone have anything else before we go? Josie, thank you for representing our teenagers.
That's why you're here.
All right. Someone has to make a motion.
I move to adjourn the meeting of the Smithville Parks and Recreation Committee of April 25th, 2009.
It's easy.
Want to make it a little longer?
Anybody want to second?
Second.
Second, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, thanks, guys.